Welcome to this episode of Life Science Success. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Don, and I'm a digital marketer in life sciences, and I own D3 Digital Marketing, our sponsor for today.
Episode of Life Science Success is brought to you by D3 Digital Media Marketing. Dive into the digital world with confidence and creativity on your side. D3 Digital Media Marketing is your all-in-one solution for making a lasting impact online. From the vibrant, engaging world of social media marketing, podcasts, and webinars, to the strategic depths of website development, SEO, pay-per-click, email, and content marketing, we tailor our approach to fit your unique brand story. Let's elevate your presence, connect with your audience, and drive success together. Your digital journey starts here. Visit d3digitalmedia.com to learn more.
So, with that, let me welcome our guest, Sabrina Johnson. She's the CEO and founder of Daré Bioscience with a distinguished career dedicated to advancing women's healthcare. And so, with that, welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you. Thank you. Really enjoyed being
Yeah,
here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being here, and I'm looking forward to this. I spent a fair amount of my career in women's healthcare diagnostics and women's healthcare, surgical treatments and things like that. And so, this is a really interesting space for me as well, and just in terms of, just the touch points that it has with my own career. Would you mind just taking a minute or two and explaining a little bit about you, and then what sort of put you, at Dare and doing the things that you're doing?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I started out professionally in biochemical engineering. I'm a biochemical engineer by training, and so very much wanted to be in the drug discovery business, and initially in biologics, and did that for a while in pharma, and eventually moved into sales and marketing, finance. Spent several years as a chief financial officer and chief operating officer, and working in a lot of different therapeutic areas, as was very fortunate to have the opportunity to do in my career. But one morning, literally, just sort of woke up and got to the point where I realized I've worked in a lot of therapeutic areas, but not directly on many products that really impacted the health and well-being of women. And that was particularly of interest to me. I'd only worked at that point on a couple products that were in what we would view as women's health, like fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis, conditions that predominantly affect women. But realized that's really where I wanted to make a difference, was putting my skill set, which is pretty broad, towards advancing products that can really make a difference for women. So I started the company. The ticker symbol is DARE. We're publicly traded, and Daré Bioscience. So I started it 9 years ago now. With that sort of inspiration of wanting to lean in a therapeutic category where the pharma industry was a little bit leaning out in terms of development, still leaning in commercially because they recognize the opportunity financially in women's health, but we're not investing as much internally in development. And that was really the why behind creating Daré, was an opportunity to create a company that could really accelerate through development products that had an opportunity to be disruptive, formative for women.
So I'm hearing a pronunciation difference though in the way that I pronounced it. So I called it Dare, and then you said Dare.
Well, the
So
tickers, yeah, so it's both. So both are correct. So the ticker symbol is DARE, like dare,
okay.
and very much that English pronunciation of DARE, DARE, and we chose the name, by the way, because DARE in English is to be bold. And Dare, I'm Italian by heritage, and Dare in Italian means to give. And
Ah.
it really is that play on words, right? We're being bold, working in this therapeutic area of women's health where there are so many unmet needs. And by doing so, we're giving women great healthcare choices. That's our goal and option. So it is both. You can use either.
Well, I mean, I at least appreciate that because and people that listen to the podcast or watch the podcast know that I've pronounced other company names incorrectly and then have had to come back and correct it as well. And so, in this case, I was both right and wrong at the same time. So not very often
Exactly.
that happens. So tell me a little bit more about, kind of the foundation of the company. What was it that, led you to that point of really saying, "Hey, look, this is something that I want to break away and go do." It's not like it's an easy journey to start, and so just curious, what really sort of, was that moment that sparked your interest to get started?
That's a great question. So there's really, I think, two parts of it, because to your point, it's not easy. It's not easy starting anything, right? Whatever that is in life. It's scary. Anything, change can be scary, and doing something new can be scary. But there were really two things for me. One was the sort of realization that others weren't doing it, and I could stand by the sidelines like others. But if everyone stands by the sidelines, right, nothing happens. Um, and so, it's very cliche, right? But sort of be the change you want to see in the world, right? I had sort of that epiphany moment of, I'm waiting for other people to do this, but I could be waiting a really long time. But I can do this. And then the other piece of that is being confident that there's a there, right? That there is an ability to make this company and make the company successful, right? And that goes back to just the fundamentals of, are there unmet needs, right? In drug development, that should be first and foremost, right? Are you solving a problem? Does a problem exist? Do you know how to solve the problem? Right. So it's one thing to say, yes, there's a problem, there's an unmet need, but you have to feel confident that you have an approach to solve that problem. So, women's health, yes, there's a lot of therapeutic areas where there aren't as many great treatment options available or new treatment options. So check the box on the unmet need. But is there a reason to believe that we can be successful in bringing your products forward? So that really took getting confident that there is proof of concept for a number of these conditions that we're going after. There are product candidates that can make sense, and we can go there. And then the third piece of that is, in that sort of equation of success, being confident that I could assemble a team to execute, and that would be able to be successful in raising the money to do it. So definitely felt I had to check all those boxes. Um, but all the pieces came together. So it was that combination of wanting to make a difference and realizing that there was enough there to feel confident that it could really be executed against.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I do feel like women's health and cancer in general is an area that definitely needs more minds applied to it. Given our our population, given just the challenges that the different areas have, and it's not just 100% in oncology, right? It's everything else leading up to the point of somebody eventually having cancer or needing a treatment as well. um, I guess the one question I would have for you related to this as well is that it's just not easy to raise funds in this, to support a company that wants to go focus on this. It just must have really taken, I feel like, two kind of really instrumental pieces coming together. One being, your idea and the science, but then also that science then leading to investors going, yes, we definitely, want to support this.
Yeah, so we work, that's a great question. So, and it does take all of that, right? So we work broadly in areas of women's health, so contraception, vaginal health, sexual health, fertility, menopause, precancer, cancer survivorship, so a lot of different areas in women's health. And to your point, you can't do that. Drug development is expensive, right? So you can't do that without investors. But investors can come in a variety of shape and sizes. So we have been very creative, right, in how we bring the money together. So we have a number of grants from the NIH. We have a number of foundation grants. We do use equity. We went public very quickly via a reverse merger because that was a great way to access capital. We merged into a company that was distressed. It was an oncology company that had had some clinical failures, but had a NASDAQ listing, had cash, and were looking for a great way to deploy that. And, we came to the table with an interesting product candidate at the time, and a reason for those dollars to be deployed against it. But to your point, whenever you're working in a therapeutic category where there is a lot of unmet need, but maybe there aren't as many companies working in the space, right? You have to make sure that that investment thesis is very clear. And we've worked hard to try to do that, right? In terms of, the markets make sense, the product candidates make sense, and executing, right? And demonstrating the
Yeah.
execution.
Yeah, and I just there's a lot overall that you just covered, that hopefully for many of our viewers or listeners at least spark some ideas. I mean, I ran across somebody today that has a rare drug candidate they're actually developing, and they've raised $5 million. The female CEO told me in cookie money. So she
Fantastic.
been selling cookies, $5 million in cookies, and I was just like, I could only imagine.
That's awesome.
But it's the passion that goes into these things that are just amazing stories for me, and just being able to be a part of sharing the story is just excellent. But also to focus on your journey. I mean, how many people as you go through school, of all the things that you learn, whether you're somebody that started out at the bench, or somebody that actually went to business school, how many people would even know what a reverse merger is and how that might actually
Right.
benefit you in an organization? So, just amazing kudos to you as well that you and the board figured it out,
Thank
and
you.
were able to implement that as well. So, tell us about Dare. What specifically are you working on? What sort of things are either out in the market, or are new innovations that are to come?
Yeah, it's a great question. So thank you for asking it. So I mentioned we work solely, right, in improving the health and well-being of women and with pharmaceuticals. So we are a biopharmaceutical company, and we have an interesting model in that we start first with the unmet need, right? I talked about we started the company to solve problems for women that address conditions that weren't being well served, right? Where we can improve outcomes or convenience or quality of life with new treatment options or address conditions that have been treated. So we start first with what do we want to solve, and then we go look for, has someone invented something already, right, that could address that condition, and then we partner with that organization, either acquire and license their product. And so when you start that way, you can really address some very interesting conditions. So I'll talk specifically about a couple of our most advanced product candidates. We have one product that's already now FDA approved, and that's for a condition called bacterial vaginosis. And it was a great example of it's a really common vaginal infection that women get, and that was a great example of just wanting to figure out how we could improve the ability to cure that infection, not necessarily reinvent the wheel, but how can we make a difference in terms of how an antibiotic is delivered to treat that condition, and did that. And it was really through developing a vaginal gel technology that could deliver the antibiotic in a way that allowed it to stay resident and cure the infection in a way that wasn't possible before. And that product is now on the market. We have a commercial collaborator for that product, company Organon. But two of the clinical products that are in late stage development, I think, are great examples of sort of those big unmet needs, and a great example of what we're doing. So one is a contraceptive. So in the contraceptive category for women today, there are some fantastic choices if she can take a hormonal product, but there aren't as many great options if hormones are not a good choice for her for whatever reason. So we're working on developing the first hormone-free, intravaginal, once a month contraceptive product for women, and it's in a phase 3 trial right now, and we've already entered into a commercialization collaboration with Bayer, the pharmaceutical company, and so that trial's ongoing right now, and that's a great example, right? So trying to do something very disruptive that no one's done before in contraception. And similarly, one of our other most advanced products is in the sexual health category. And while men have had option for years now, almost 30 years, for erectile dysfunction, there hasn't been the same option for women who have arousal disorder, which is basically the female version of that. And so we're developing a cream formulation of the same active ingredient that is in Viagra, but for women, for arousal disorder. And we completed a phase 2 trial last year, and we are working with the FDA right now to prepare for phase 3. So those are just a couple examples, but hopefully they give a sense of, we're really trying to be disruptive and transformative for women to bring products forward.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is an impressive overall pipeline of things that you're working on. And as you said, I mean, there are a lot of quote unquote unmet needs with regards to women's sexual health and just in general,
Yep.
the ability to have access to things that other people have had in our population as well. It would be nice to be able to
Yeah,
fill that need as well.
exactly. Exactly.
So in terms of the challenges that you've run into, can you kind of cover just a couple of the more significant challenges that you faced in the past, and how did you um, how did you sort of face into them, and how did you overcome them in the end?
Yeah, I'll highlight a couple. I mean, one was around, we kind of touched on it, the reverse merger, but I'll just give a little more perspective on, why we made that choice and how it overcame a challenge. So, working in a therapeutic category like women's health, and when we started the company in 2015, women's health is having its moment right now. So we love being in the spotlight right now. There's a whole White House initiative around it. There's new government funding being deployed. So, if you're just looking at today, you're thinking, what challenges? That's great. But in 2015, there wasn't the attention on women's health. And so from the normal way you start a company, you're private, you go out and get venture funding. We would go speak to venture capitalists, and we were talking about our contraceptive product, that hormone-free contraceptive, for instance. And, they would just kind of look at us, and they would know nothing about contraceptive product development. They hadn't seen other companies doing it. And venture capital dollars, right? They're locking up their dollars for a long period of time, right? You're private, they're making investment. And we realized pretty quickly that maybe that wasn't the way to fund the company. If you're doing something really innovative and different, maybe being public is a better vehicle, because your shares are freely tradable, right? Someone can decide to make an investment and know they have the flexibility of changing their mind, or getting in and out if they need to, of the story. And so we started looking for an opportunity to do a reverse merger, which is a really cost effective way to go public. It just costs less than doing an initial public offering. And so that was how we overcame one of those challenges, right? Was to really pivot, right? Instead of saying, no, the way you do it is you're a private company and you get the venture money. We took a step back and said, well, that might not be the best avenue for this business model. Also, because we wanted to build a whole pipeline and really be a roll up in women's health. We have 13 products in the portfolio today, and that's also not a venture model. So that was one sort of obstacle. And then I think the other is, we have a real goal of making, um, whether you want to call it women's health or however you want to talk about it, right? It's healthcare. These are conditions that solely affect women, disproportionately affect women, or differentially affect women. That's where we focus. And bottom line, it's healthcare. So also very much, one of the challenge was making this conversation something that appears everywhere. And again, I look at kind of fast forwarding how we've overcome that. We try to be loud, we try to be out there, we try to talk about it a lot. And, this year at Bio, there's a couple panels on it. I think about that conference years ago when there were no discussions about it to where it is today. So that's progress. Um, so that was a long answer to overcoming challenges, but I think a lot of it is really around looking for the solution, right? And not being discouraged. And no, there always is a solution. It might be the 10th you try, but there's always a solution.
Yeah, I want to say though, I mean, in terms of the conversations, and I certainly appreciate the funding that's coming and things like that, but it takes a while to kind of uncover things. I know that some of the
Yes.
more recent grants that have been issued in women's health and things like that. I I think one example that I was given recently was that, there were like 10,000 applicants or something for one particular grant.
Oh,
And
yes. Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy to me, like all of these companies that are out there sort of vying for the same dollars, overall as well. And I mean, the only thing I would say to investors is, look, yes, we've made some progress, but also we've got a long way still to go on
We
this.
have a
And I
long way
think,
to go. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
No,
think it
don't
was
get me wrong. We definitely do.
I think Amy Schumer had said, because she suffered from endometriosis for a long time, right? Amy Schumer had said something
Yep.
like, let one man experience 1/10 of the problems that, that this causes, and we would have had a cure already. And now, we don't even have,
It's a great,
consistent
yeah.
treatment for endometriosis. So just
No,
an
it's a
example.
great point. And I definitely, yes, and I definitely don't want to come across like I don't want more investment in women's health. There should be 1,000 DARAs. To our knowledge, we're the only publicly traded company working solely but broadly in women's health. And I don't want to be the unicorn, right? There should be thousands of us, just like there were thousands of oncology companies and thousands of gene therapy companies. And right, it should be, maybe thousands are exaggerating, but you get the point, right? There should be
Yeah,
more than one. There should be
yeah.
more than one.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. So, just to ask you to put on your future cap a little bit and tell us what you think of the future of women's health. Where do you see things going? What role do you think Daré Bioscience will play in that future? And this isn't necessarily anything that's meant to sort of indicate that the future, but at the same time, it'd be
I
interesting to
wish.
get your
Yeah.
perspective. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, I do think we're going to look, I do think when it comes to women's health, I sincerely believe the future is promising. Because steps are being made in the right direction. The right conversations are happening now. There's recognition. I think back to how rare disease looked years ago when there wasn't as much investment in the category, and a sort of awakening amongst the regulatory community, the government funding agencies, private companies created a paradigm shift in what's happening there. And I'm very, um, optimistic and feeling like we're at that same point in women's health where the right conversations are happening to really catalyze the space. And success begets success, right? As we then can start looking to successes in the category, that's just going to catalyze more investment and the change that we're hoping for in terms of expansion of research and treatment options. It's going to happen. So as I look to the future, I definitely hope that Daré is a shining star and a guiding, blazing the trail, but that we've got just like tons, right? Tons following us because that success generates, right, more enthusiasm for investment.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that bright future for sure, both in women's health as well as, for your organization as well. So I want to focus on you for the last few questions. The first one is, what's the most significant leadership advice that you've ever received?
So I've been very, very fortunate, and I do realize it is fortunate because not everyone gets this opportunity. I've had three incredible mentors in my career who weren't just mentors but advocates. Um, Including people that gave me, one of them gave me my first opportunity to be a chief financial officer of a public company, which is how I learned about reverse mergers. One of them is someone who wrote the first check for Daré when we were, private. One of them is my current board chair. So I've had some incredible mentors in my career, but one of them in particular gave me sort of the best advice I ever had, which was to be myself. And it was when I first got that CFO opportunity and, felt that I had to perhaps be cookie cutter in how that role was performed, and particularly being a woman stepping into that role. That was in 2002. There were not a lot of female CFOs of publicly traded biotech companies. And he was someone who said to me, like, why just be your authentic self? And, why would you want to be anything different? And you don't, need to look a certain way or behave a certain way. I gave you this opportunity because of how you are and who you are. So that's great advice. He also told me to speak up more, which is also great advice, right? Like, if you have a great idea, but it's only in your head, no
Right.
one's going to know about it, right? So if you're not willing to share it, don't expect it to happen, and don't begrudge that it doesn't, right? So how key communication is. Um, so those were two, but those were two, like the be authentic and communicate, right? Be an effective communicator.
Yeah, absolutely. So what excites you?
I love like challenges, as hard as it is. I love problem solving. I love trying to do something that other people have not done before. To me, that is exciting and interesting. I love going after indications where, like therapeutic indications, where you truly are blazing the path, where you got to really collaborate with the FDA and work through it. That I like to be on the cutting edge, do things different, don't be cookie cutter, right? Figure out a smarter, maybe way to do certain things. So I love that kind of challenge of,
Very, very good. Thank you for
having to
sharing that.
problem solve.
Right. What concerns you?
Um, I think right now, like apathy, like just putting that just in one word, kind of apathy. I think sometimes it's easy. I don't have it, but I see it, right? Sometimes where people just get to the place where they get sort of frustrated. Um, and I definitely don't want that to happen, for instance, in women's health. I don't want to, I want there to be lots of successes, which that means people can't get complacent, right? They got to keep working hard and working smart and moving things forward. So I think, apathy can be sort of the greatest, challenge to innovation, is when people get comfortable with the norm and
Yeah.
don't want to push the envelope and make things better.
Yeah, there's some great CEOs that I've met through this podcast where I feel like that word is not necessarily really in their vocabulary. They're used to sort of
Right.
pushing the norms. And then there's people that probably work for them where it's very much a part of their vocabulary, as well.
Yeah.
This whole push and pull that probably happens, on both sides. But I can understand the frustration, but at the same time, we've got to just keep trying a different way, and that's where we'll
Yeah.
find the solution eventually. Last question:
Exactly.
what inspires you?
I just like the generation of people. There are so many people that are fearless, and just fearless people, and like, it's just a reminder in people that confront their obstacles without, I don't know, without fear. So that um, bold actions, bold behaviors, fearless
Yeah,
decision making inspires me, and I want to be surrounded by that.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Sabrina Johnson, thank you so much for being on the Life Science Success podcast. I greatly appreciated you being here and for telling me how to pronounce Daré, by the way. And it's great to hear all the great things that you guys are working on. I really appreciated the story and just hearing everything that's happening. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you shortly at Bio this year in San Diego.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so
Th-
much for the opportunity.
Thanks a lot.